Start a rap band.
A rap band?
Yeah, you got all the fixins for it now. Microphones, audio equipment.
You gotta move up a little closer.
To the mic?
Just like pull your seat up a little.
All right.
You ever done a podcast before?
Yeah, I did actually. We went to this place in Lake Worth, and
You gotta get closer to it, buddy.
closer still.
Keep talking, yeah.
We went to this place in Lake Worth that my buddy was recording actually a rap album, and he's like, "Why don't we do a?"
Who was it?
You know, Crack Daniels.
No, that's his name.
Yeah.
I fucking love his name.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He's actually really, really good. And he's from New York. He lives down here in Delray or Boynton, and he already had like a connect for recording. So he's like, why don't we sit down and do a podcast? It really like had no start, it had no end. And we just went on there for an hour and each kicked in like $50, and we're in like this really nice recording studio, and we did like a little podcast.
That's cool.
We saved it. So,
that's cool, man.
Mhm.
When I started doing it, first off, we're live now, so thank you very much for coming here. I appreciate it. When I started doing it, I would just kind of sit down and try to just wing it with people. And it really, really helps, at least for me, to do like 10 minutes at least of like research about the person. Some more than others. Like last week, I interviewed Brandon Novak.
Okay.
And since he's like a little bit more of a
easier to pull information on. Maybe?
Yeah, you know, because you can like find stuff about him. You know, there's no Wikipedia page for Bill Somerville, although I think we should probably make one now.
Yeah, there's probably some other ways to get some of my background information. I think might have been on the books once or twice.
Yeah, a few times, right? But I thought like a cool fucking thing that we could start about, because this was something that I always found really interesting about you, but I never really had time to talk to you, was you're really into surfing. And for someone like myself, I've been surfing one time. I went surfing with my friend named Travis Mozicki. You might actually know him.
I think I know Travis.
Yeah, he's got a huge beard. And I don't really admit it that much, but I'm kind of terrified of the ocean. And like, it fucking scares me. Like, I don't know. There's something about it. It scares me. When did you get into surfing, and like, how did that become such a part of your life?
So I have to caveat all this by saying I'm probably the worst surfer in South Florida.
Yeah.
I enjoy it a lot, but it's definitely a work in progress for me. I found out about it. I did it a little bit. I grew up in New Jersey in a place called Long Beach Island, and it's where
I don't know. That's where you grew up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have a 609 area code.
That's right.
Yeah, I should have picked up on that.
So I grew up around, my dad knew the guy that started Ron Johns. Ron. He started back in the day doing he did like whittled furniture out of beech wood, and then eventually that financed like his original surf shop, which started in LBI and then went to like Australia and Cocoa Beach and all those other places. So like in LBI, it was always like a big thing. I tried it a couple times. Surfing in New Jersey is like intense. The waves are like very intense. Not a lot of people know that, but it's actually much more intense up in the Northeast than it is down here.
Yeah. So
I started down there just briefly though. Like, you know, it's hard to be good at anything if you're only doing it like here and there, and that's my involvement in surfing.
So you're not like a weekend, every single weekend, wake up with the crack of dawn surfing kind of guy?
I wish I could be, but we have jobs, you know.
Yeah, I hear you though. I wish I could be that way with skateboarding. Like, there was a time in my life where, and I talked about this last weekend. There was a time in my life where skateboarding was like all I ever wanted to do, and man, I just found so much peace in it. And I think about it, you know, I was like, man, I have time on the weekends. I can dedicate like every Saturday morning, and I can't even plan out this next weekend, let alone like be able to make out plans for like everything to practice it. I was not good at surfing at all. I really, really, really didn't enjoy it. I thought that I was interested, and this is going to be like a huge caveat, but knowing your personality and like how, you know, you got kind of the surfer vibe and you're pretty laid back and relaxed and things don't really seem to stress you out that much. But I remember the first time that you told me when you were in here last time that you were in the military, and I admire that a whole lot about people. And there's the whole thank you for your service type thing. But from my perspective, I want to know, what is it that you, well, first, what branch in the military and how did you get into that? But tell me like some of the lessons that you learned from just being involved in that.
So I was in the Army. I was an engineer. They have these letters and numbers that they correspond with jobs in the Army. So it was 21 Alpha was my MOS.
What's an MOS?
MOS is like a military area service, right? So it's just like, what job did you perform? Like you'll hear people say like 11 Bravo, that's infantry, or transportation or whatever it is. It's two numbers in a letter. You put it together, and like anyone that's in the military, they'll know like what that is most of the times. How I got involved with it. So my dad served, my grandfather served, my great grandfather all served. Really? Had no intentions of serving, no intentions of being in the military, but I graduated high school in Southern New Jersey, and Southern Regional High School was the name of the high school. And September 11th, 2001 was the start of my senior year. So, and that was the day that everything changed.
So we're like the same age. I'm 31.
Yeah, I'll be 34 May 2nd.
Okay.
So
May 2nd. My birthday's May 3rd.
What? So I was starting my senior year, and I remember, I think everyone remembers like where they were at or what they were doing when it happened. And I was in a multimedia class, and I remember the subject pretty vividly. It was special effects. So we were going over special effects and watching video snippets of special effects. Teacher picks up a phone call, turns on a TV, and here we are seeing a replay of a plane hitting a building. So we're still all under the impression like, hey, this is special effects, right? So we're all like, wow, that's intense. How did you do that? And he's like, you could see kind of like the color running out of his face, because it's very common, even in Southern New Jersey, for a lot of people to go earn income in New York City because the pay is so much higher, and bring it back, into New Jersey, where the cost of living is like at least a little bit lower. So there was a lot of people's families that, they had jobs in the trade center or around the trade center at the time. Same thing. Like I know there are people that even commute from like, outside the Philadelphia area and go into New York City and bring the pay back out. But so it was a pretty big thing. And at that time, I just was focused on getting accepted to college and going that route. I kind of decided like, the military really wasn't going to be part of my life. After that day, like everything changed. So I did get accepted into college, and I did it with the stipulation that I would be in the ROTC program to earn a commission as a second lieutenant, as an officer, to go in as that. That was like my trade-off.
That's ROTC, ROTC?
Yeah, ROTC. Okay. So a little bit different than like the high school ROTC. Like you're like actively involved in the military on a collegiate level. Like, you'll go in, they'll take pictures of you. They'll pretty much like take you into the military. Like you'll say your oath, like promise to defend the country against all, everyone, foreign, domestic. So it was, an eye-opening experience. I one summer went to basic combat training. It wasn't a requirement, but I had thought like, hey, to be a good officer, it's important for me to see the enlisted side of it. So I went in as a private, did everything that I needed to do during the summer, and then came back out, re-enrolled into college, and continued like on a fast track to graduate. And then when I graduated, it was like Forrest Gump, it's a guy at the end of the stage. He's like, are you ready to go, sir? And then like I was back in a van and back to Fort Benning.
So you had a degree?
Yeah, I got a degree.
Because ROTC, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you graduate as a lieutenant, right?
Yeah. So you'll start as a cadet, and then you'll move from a cadet status directly until they give you a gold bar. So it's like a second lieutenant. You'll always notice if you see the rank in the center of someone. Okay. it's a gold bar. They have a saying like in the military, like if it shines, salute it. So like,
okay,
if you see like a gold bar or a silver bar or 2 bars or an oak leaf, like that's how you know like the difference between an NCO, which is a non-commissioned officer, which is like sergeant, staff sergeant, first sergeant, and then an officer, which is second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, lieutenant colonel, major, you know, all through the ranks, brigadier general, 2-star general, 3-star. So it was pretty cool. The in terms of like what I've learned, I don't think there's ever been any school or any type of learning that I've ever gone through that even comes close to like the leadership schools that I went through in the military. You know, I'm like 21, 22 years old, fresh out of school. You're dumped into, they'll call it LDAC, is the first school that you'll go to, leadership development and assessment course, where it's like, you know, they'll stick you out in the woods. There's a river. They give you like 1 log and like 4 dudes and like some parachute. And they're like, get your platoon across the river. And then I went to BOLIC, basic officer leadership course, which, it's kind of like an infantry school in a little bit. Like we run, they call them sticks, squad training exercises, where like they'll take us through and like we'll, you know, tromp through the woods and they hire actors, and it's like you're going through missions, you know, like going through. The military is very big on preparation. They always say like 80-20, like 80% preparation, 20% execution. So like even like when you're going out and you're, you know, about to perform something, it's just like you've practiced it so many times that you and your entire platoon, you could do it with your eyes closed.
Wow.
All your contingencies, everything. It was just like plan, execute. So, and I've taken like a lot of that with, especially like 80-20 rule in like all of my life, you know, like.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you said they teach you 80-20 rule, you could see that even how you accessed that was without even thinking about it. So like, it's clear that you've taken that sort of, I don't know, philosophy and applied it to like a lot of other stuff. So, okay. So how long were you enlisted for?
So I was in the Army altogether from pretty much like 2003 to the latter part of 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And that is so amazing to me, because this is going to come off being, I don't know, like stereotypical, but when you walk down the street, you just don't strike me as like an Army guy, you know?
Yeah, no, I am definitely, I guess, unique in that point. I just never, just kind of always been a chill dude. Like I've been in a lot of like really uncomfortable situations, and I don't know. My dad is an incredibly intelligent guy, and he's like very level-headed most of the times. And he just always kind of taught me, like, you know, the worst thing that you can do in any situation, 2 things, you know, panic or just like not make a decision. You know, so that's like kind of where I got it through. And like that had been ingrained in me before I'd even signed any documentation to be in the military. You know, it's just like, what are you going to do? You know, he'd always like, even when I was younger, I'm like, oh man, this test is going to be hard. And he's like, okay, great. Like, what are you prepared to do about it?
Yeah.
You know, maybe you should be upstairs studying.
The make a decision thing is something that I was also taught, and especially in just my experience with business, and especially with having like, I don't want to say the burden, but the responsibility of like having to make the choice and then living with the consequences. It's better to make a decision and sometimes make the wrong decision than it is to like not make one.
100%.
Every time, I really think. Every time.
As long as you can substantiate why you made the decision, even if it's the wrong decision, like then, you know, you learn. You know, like I'm trying to learn some of this digital marketing stuff on my own, and like I've wasted some money, you know, but I call it tuition. You know, I don't call it wasting money. I'm like, all right, that's my tuition. You know, like I got off real easy with college, but like, you know, like I made some Facebook ads, I dropped a bunch of money into it, a lot that did nothing for me. Like, all right, that's my tuition. Don't do that again.
Yeah,
you know?
we're definitely going to visit that, because obviously that's something that I like to talk about, but I don't know. I guess I'm just so fascinated by this. So one thing, when I fixed cars a lot growing up, I was just, because, you know, I was like a blue collar kid. I worked in a lot of mechanic shops, and I worked with this kid who was I mean, I think he was I'm nervous to say because I don't know the terminology, but I think he was just like a basic soldier. You know, we didn't like have any ranks, whatever the term for that is. I don't want to like insult anybody.
Enlisted.
Yeah, he was just enlisted, you know. And he left the military and he was working slinging hoops, we called it. He was in charge of changing tires when a car came out. And he told me all of the places that he went to. He was like, look, you don't understand, I've been around the entire world. And I thought that was so cool. Have you gotten to experience like the international travel, or was it basically just staying in the country?
It was staying in the country. So a lot of people think that like, hey, like, you know, if you're joining the Army, you're going to deploy. But the reality of the situation is for every one combat armed soldier, it takes another 10 soldiers to support them. Like someone has to handle logistics of like bringing mail, bringing ammunition, like transportation, like making sure the soldier's paid, making sure he's got medical attention, making sure like all these other things. So like, although like Hollywood tends to glorify like the infantry side of it, because there's not a lot of glory in like, all right, boys, here we are, you know, open up the door, go do things, drive away.
Yeah.
You know, like they're, you know,
we'll stay a little closer to that, bud.
Those people, you know, like they deserve their time in the sun.
Of course.
You know, I mean, like it takes a lot of work, you know, not only that, but then the spouses back home that are taking care of the families and the bills and everything while they're overseas. So my job specifically was I was in horizontal engineering. So I did demo.
So bridges, right?
Bridges. Yep. Bridges, and also laying ground floor structure, you know, for things and planning basically. So I was as an officer, I was in like a managerial position where I'd have all these different types of, you know, engineering troops like carpentry and plumbing and everything like that. And my job was to take information from higher ups and then put it into action, right? And make sure the job got done. So it's kind of like a foreman almost.
Okay.
But everything was done like in country, and there are a lot of troops. Because think about it like this, like, you know, the Department of Defense. I mean, we have like probably 3 or 4 million strong. You know, overseas in Afghanistan, maybe at the height, there's 250K. You know, so a small segment of that will go overseas, but then, you know, there are people that are deployed all over the place. So I was not requested to go overseas for whatever reason.
Well, and I think also, and this could be, I hate like predicating this every time. I just literally don't know shit about the military, so I don't want to say anything that's like completely off. But I feel like as a lieutenant, they would want to keep you safer, right? Like, don't they try to? You got to have the smart people around because the smart people are really in charge of that kind of stuff. So when you say a horizontal engineer, so if I were to come in and we say, we need to build this base, you would literally lay it out and lay the floor. Do you mean like the literal translation of the horizontal?
First floor structure, and then vertical engineers would come in if there was a requirement to do second, third, and fourth floor, and they would lay the additional floors. Like bridging is another thing too that we
bridges
would do.
Fascinate me.
It's insane. Well, so here's the thing:
so crazy.
When you bridge over water, like that was probably we had to do this, and it was very difficult when I had to go to. It's called EOBC, so Engineering Officer Basic Course, out in Fort Leonard Wood. And I'll tell you what, like my brain was still fresh because I was coming off of 4 years of college, but it was difficult. It was like, hey, you're laying bridge over water. You know, how many feet per second is the river going? What's the load at any time that's going to be crossing the bridge? How many links are in the bridge? Like, it was serious math. I was like, holy shit.
And
like,
the consequences of getting something wrong with that are
huge,
like real huge.
Monetarily and American life wise too.
Of course.
You know?
I think that's, I remember Bill Nye in the Star Talk podcast was saying something about that's why engineer schooling is designed to make people quit. Like there's this whole thing. It's like, this is so unfair. This has to be easy. It's like, yeah, it is unfair because you know how unfair it is if you make a skyscraper and it falls over. He's like, only the best can do this. So I think that's like, I don't know, something to hang your hat on, you know, like being able to handle that pressure. Like this needs to happen, right? This bridge needs to get built. Like somehow we have to figure it out. And I think that's really cool, man. I don't want to harp on this too much because I know that there's a lot more to you than the military. I've always found it so fascinating, and especially for you to tell me that you were in the military for 7 years. And I mean, I know that you're going to bring a lot of that stuff with you for the rest of your life, right?
Sure. No,
I had a kind of one more little story. There's this kid, William Getz, his name is. I grew up with him, and I wrestled with him in high school when I played lacrosse with him, and I worked with him every day. We were basically greensmen at a country club. It's called Standing Around Country Club, and he's just one of the coolest kids. And he got hit by a car, and he had real bad brain damage. He was out of school for like a month. And I remember he came back, and his head, from like the swelling in his brain, was like kind of lopsided, like almost like Gumby, you know? And he was told that growing up, all he ever wanted to do was be a Marine. Like he was one of those kids, had posters all over the wall. Like when we would watch movies, like I remember watching The Rock with him, and those montages with like the music and the whole.
With Sean Connery?
Yeah,
Rock? Dude, I love that movie. It's amazing.
And it's like, the whole scene's just like, get ready, boys. And they're flipping over their night vision goggles. Like he would just fucking love it. And anyway, after he got hit by a car, he was told over and over again that he probably wouldn't really be able to get through college just because he wasn't the same with taking tests. Like his personality was the same, but he had a hard time applying stuff. And somehow he went to ROTC and he graduated from Temple, I think with honors as a lieutenant. And he's in Africa right now. Wow. And I don't think he's ever really been deployed, like you said, into combat. I think he's been like directly involved with combat situations from maybe like a higher up standpoint. And the reason why I asked that question is because I remember his brother saying that that he actually requested to get put in, and the Navy even said like, look, we don't want you going into combat because you're just such an important factor in, like the logistics behind these operations. Yeah. So man, I admire that kid so much. Let's get on to the marketing stuff, because I know that you're like super, super interested in it. And I always love talking to people. So we'll flip the roles now. I'm super green and all the shit that we were just talking about now. And I have some experience with online marketing, right? First, I'm really interested about your job and your company. You're like really passionate about the company that you work for. And I think that's really cool. Last time we came in here, you were excited to talk about it. And Jules, my fiance, she's like, well, what does he do? And I was like, well, I don't really know. So I think the first thing we need to do is like define what it is that you do for work.
Sure. So I work for a company. The name of the company is Datalot. And what we do is lead generation or live call transfer generation for insurance agents, both on the health insurance side, which is I'm no longer doing that, and then property and casualty, which I am doing it. So homeowners, auto insurance, we do a little bit of commercial insurance, but we own landing pages. We run mobile click-to-call campaigns. Are you looking for a better rate on your auto or your homeowner's insurance? The consumer will interact with the media, and then we have call centers all across the United States manned by live reps who will vet the calls, just either collect information if they've dialed in, or if they filled out one of our landing pages, they'll confirm the information. Then we'll go ahead and confirm that they are interested in speaking to a licensed representative immediately and that they have the time to do so.
You've run through this pitch a few times. Huh?
I can do it in my sleep.
Yeah, man, you're really good at it.
And then exclusively transfer over the call. So
you even got like all the little hype words, like, and then we're going to exclusively transfer the call to a live certified rep.
I used to get things thrown at me by my boss. I never recommend this for anyone, but like being in close quarters, especially when our office was smaller, like we've grown considerably in the 4 years that I've worked there.
I know that you guys have been growing
hugely. And
you've been growing a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when I started, I, was probably doing like 50 to 70K in business. And last year I closed out the year at a little under 4 million. So it's just like,
look at you go.
Huge explosion. And it's good. That's what I like about working for, like, in the military. Like, it's very rigid, and it's like you have to do this much time to get to this and this and this. But like working for a startup, it's crazy. You know, it's just like you promotion, you know, like the company's growing so fast that, you know, the staff is trying to keep up with it. And yeah, it takes a lot of work to work for a tech startup, but like when it explodes, it's just like the company grows underneath you and just pushes you up. And then it's great because you've been there, like, you know, technically speaking, like 4 years is not a long time to work for a company.
But you've seen the whole thing like metamorphosize.
Yeah, there were times where the CEO and the president and the CFO would fly down to Delray Beach, you know, when we were working above what's now Rocco's Tacos, and like get feedback from us. And I was like, wow, you know, there was no way, you know, a 5-star general was going to walk in a room and be like, hey, Mr. Second Lieutenant, like, let me hear your thoughts on the situation. He's like, no, you're an idiot. And I'm going to make the decisions. But like here in the civilian world, like you have these guys that are like, you guys are in the trenches. We want your feedback. And I'm like, you know, and it was really cool to see that. It was really cool to see them grow and the company grow. Our main office is in Dumbo and in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Down under the Manhattan
under the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's like where all of our tech and our media is. We just opened up a new office in Denver. So a lot of the guys from the Florida office, to try to replicate the success that we had
going out there
in Florida, are going out there to start up a new office. And it's amazing. The feedback that we get from agents, it's great. Like I've done a lot of sales jobs before, and this is the one that I truly love it because there's results. Like people are excited. They're like, wow, the biggest, I guess, downside to the service is guys will be like, we need more. And I'm like, you know, like we'll tell the media department, but you know, in a certain time we put on so many agents that it's difficult to keep up with it. Like we're doing a good job. Like if someone says we need more, usually the media department will respond in kind.
So when you say we need more, you mean more leads,
more live transfers. Yeah. So
I gotcha.
It's awesome, man. I love it. It's great. And I just like started up my Facebook business page and like my Instagram, and I'm like reading all these books. And then
what are you reading?
So I'm reading the Ultimate series. There's a really good Facebook marketer named Perry Marshall who has like, handles millions in media spend for big companies like car companies, Mercedes, like all different kinds of companies. And it's really cool. He's got like, he explains not just like the flight plan of like how to use Facebook and ad builder, but he's just like, honestly, like you can be, you know, a tech ninja at all this stuff, but if you don't know marketing, it's going to suck. If you don't know what an ad set is, if you don't know what long copy is, if you don't know what a header is, and if you don't know like the 13 concepts of marketing and scarcity and all that stuff, like doesn't make a difference how good you are at targeting your ads are just going to suck and you're going to have no engagement in it. So it's cool, like learning about marketing, like taking what I've even learned from my college courses and applying it into like social media distribution networks like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, which is another one that I'm getting into. And I like it. It's good. And like what you said too in the beginning, before we went live, is like I'm really trying to like not go too far down the rabbit hole with Facebook, because sometimes it's like I've had to separate it almost to the point of like not looking at my personal account and just looking at the business accounts, because it's this stuff is addicting. Like that's why it works. You know, you get on Facebook and 5 minutes later you're looking at cat videos and you're like, dude, I came on here to make an ad set and now I'm looking at cat videos. Like where did, you know, what happened? And it's just like you just get hooked.
Yeah, well, you have to understand, billions of dollars is being spent by some of the smartest fucking people in the, not even just the world, like the history of the world, considering all the resources that they have. And the only thing they're trying to do is figure out how to make you stop doing what you're doing and do this instead. So like as soon as you go in there, you're at a disadvantage because it's just you know, it's just me. I'm Tim, you know, I got no clout, no like fortitude, and I'm just stacked up against this team of ridiculous capability whose only mission is to make me stop what I'm doing and look at this thing instead. And
they're good.
Yeah,
they're real
they're
good.
Really
man.
good.
They're really good.
So tell me some of the. So now we're in my wheelhouse. Now.
Oh boy.
Now I'm gonna have fun with this. So what is your, when you say you're creating ads, like what is your goal? Are you trying to build your personal brand, or are you just literally trying to convert more leads into phone calls so that you can take them yourself?
So initially what I'm doing is I'm doing the first. I'm doing the or actually the second, I think you said. I'm trying to convert more people into not phone calls, not even a transfer. No, I'm trying to get access to the insurance agents that I sell the calls to.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of them have either business pages or personal pages. So I will I'll reach out to them through marketing and target in specific states that I know that my company has an abundance of calls in, and reach out to them, right? Through ads and through like campaigns. I know I was reading something that was really interested. It said,
so you're doing more of a B2B type network.
Yeah, B2B, exactly.
Okay.
So doing that, and it's going okay. Like my reach is solid, but my interaction is not, which is good because I'm learning about like the building blocks. Like if it's really cool. Like the way that this guy explains it is almost like, like it's like Legos, and you have all these different types of Legos. And if you're finding like, if you're getting the reach, but you're not getting like the click-through rate, like this is what you have to look at. This is what you have to edit, like obviously people are seeing your ad, but they're not interacting with it. Like now you need to look at your ad copy.
So then it's just copy. Yeah. Copy and messaging.
So it's really
What's
cool.
his name again?
The guy's name is Perry Marshall.
I'm going to link it. And what's the book?
The book is it's the ultimate series for Facebook marketing.
Oh, so it's a blog?
No, it's an actual book. So he has an ultimate series for like Instagram, Facebook, local marketing.
Oh, kind of like the for dummies type deal.
It is, but this guy is like, I always look at, whenever I go to look at a book, the most important thing to me is who wrote the book, right? Like, is this guy full of shit? Does he know what he's talking about? Did he just like go to school for this and he runs like $1 million worth of ad spend, and then he goes to college campuses and claims that he's an expert? Or is this
There's
a guy?
There's a lot of that goes on with social media too.
And it's tough. It's just so difficult to know like who is doing the deal and who is not. And nowadays with like a lot of this, a lot of people write books and they're specifically built to upsell their marketing products.
Of course.
It's just like, here's a free book plus shipping and you get it. And yeah, there's some good value in it, but the whole entire thing is an upsell for
it's a
something
content
bigger.
Marketing tool.
Yeah. And it's just like, man, that's not really like what I'm looking for. And this guy, Perry, is one of the few guys that's not doing that. Like he's packing all the value into it, and he's got some really insightful things, and he's constantly updating the book because there are so many switches in the social media networks. And he's got a blog too that updates a little bit quicker, obviously, than his books. And it's cool. I mean, I'm just learning a ton. I just get nervous like when I see,
it's terrifying.
I'm just like, they could switch the rules at any time, and like this could all be obsolete. Yes. And then I'm just on this like this hamster wheel of just like learning more, which to a degree is good because there's always going to be a need for professionals. Like when I got out of the military, the first thing I did was taxes. We're always going to have a job as tax accountants because tax law always changes, which is good for job security. Same thing for media. I mean, like if they're constantly changing the rules of, Google's doing updates, Facebook's doing updates, they're altering things. Like it's good because there's knowledge that we're going to be able to acquire and pass on and help our customers.
Sure.
So it's not terrible. It's just requires work, and who likes to work, man?
Well, I think that, man, you said so much there. Okay. What has been like so far in the short time that you've been experimenting with it? And, you mentioned that you've screwed up a bunch of times. Like what has been from you can tell with the Legos, like where in the sequence of creating an ad all the way to conversion, like which block do you think you're falling short on?
The first block. So my biggest issue is that I jumped right into the technology aspect before I did step one, which was to craft an offer, right? Okay. Like had no offer. I just had like, I just
everybody look at this
posts and just look at this, like driving no value for it whatsoever. I'm just another Joe on Facebook, not making like an actual hook that's really making anyone want to stop, right? You know, everyone sees like all these internet marketers and all these lead companies. Like, what was I doing to drive traffic? And the answer was nothing. I'm just throwing money away, and I'm focused on the technology of targeting and just saying, if I could just get this in front of them for long enough, it'll be good. You know, and then I started to learn about split testing and the power with that, you know, having an ad set where you can rotate images and rotate ad copy to find, you know, the Lego blocks where you're most effective in terms of like reach and click-through rate. So I had some money. I threw it into it. I might as well have just lit it on fire and stood around it.
No, but that's not true. I can tell you right now, a reason why I think you're going to do well is because like, it's really, really easy to have these kind of failures and have it, you know, like punch you in the ribs and you're just like, oh, I can't take that loss again. But you only need one. That's like the cool thing about it. Like, you only need to find a sweet spot. And then once you hit that sweet spot, you just pour as much as you possibly can into it. So, I mean, here you go again, 80-20 rule, right? Like, as long as you keep trying to figure it out and keep trying to figure out, like, when you find it, you just fucking execute on it as hard as you can. And then all of the little, I mean, it's money, you know, I don't want to like negate how important it is, but in the grand scheme of things, like all the small chunks and losses that you took, it's not even going to matter.
Yeah, eventually.
But that's the hard part, is the patience. Most people just see this instant gratification world and they're like, oh, well, I don't get it. This person's got like 800,000 Instagram followers. Like, how do I get there? But that's not really where the value is. The value is what you said, like having something to offer. And that's the hard part.
So that's like where I'm at with it right now. I mean, I like it. I enjoy it a lot. I went to, I ended up going to a seminar in Orlando. It's called Funnel Hacking Live.
Cool.
And it was really, really awesome. Like, I met a bunch of like-minded people. This guy, Russell Brunson, that runs ClickFunnels, like
I know him.
He's an upsell artist, man. Like, he was selling us the whole entire time. And like, I saw it, but for me, the biggest thing was like, he had like all of his best guys that were performing the best, put them all in a room, all at tables. And we were able to go around and ask questions, you know, like, tell me what it looks like from $0 a day to $1,000 a day. Tell me like how you scaled your business from 1,000 to 10,000, from 10,000 to 100K. And it was just really cool, not just to see like where I was at, 0 to 1,000, but also to see like other guys that were like hitting a wall and the feedback that they were getting too, you know, of like scaling out and the walls that, you know, you're coming up against and the walls that you're eventually going to hit. There was just like a lot. I couldn't write notes fast enough. Like, I'm just sitting there, like, eventually I killed it. And I was just like, having my phone, I'm like holding it out and just like recording people, trying to catch something. And I listened to the recordings. They were all shit. I didn't put the microphone close enough to their mouth.
It's tough one. I think one of the real advantages that you're going to have though, is that, like I just said before, kind of piggybacking, it's not the seminars and it's not the blogs. It's just the willingness to sit down and try it. You'd be surprised how many people educate themselves to the point where like you can say anything and they know all the new techniques and they knew all the new like buzzwords and the shit that people are doing right now. But if you sit down, I think what I said to you before is the same advice that I would say to anybody. Like, don't worry about all that. Pick one thing and like just get as good as you possibly can at that. And I know people are kind of sick of hearing me say this, but I've really, really leaned away from Facebook recently. And that's why I like email, because of how you mentioned all the changes and how unpredictable it is and like how volatile it is. And especially now with all the crazy Facebook shit going on. But yeah, that's why I like an email audience who's engaged personally to me, because it doesn't matter what can change. You know, like my email list is always going to be my email list, and I'm always going to have a direct line of access to them just by clicking an email. Like, you know, I don't have to go through Facebook, or I don't have to go through Google to reach my audience. However, I think in your case, it's a little bit different because your audience isn't, people that are just like following you because of your know-how in the insurance game. Like your quote unquote audience is like-minded business people who want to curate the leads that you're selling. So it's not like a kind of thing where, I mean, maybe it is though. I learned that with Stodzy when I started writing the content there, because I was thinking to myself, like, nobody cares about this. Like the content around the online marketing for behavioral health is so dry, like who's really caring about this? But I was surprised. I just sent out one newsletter a week, and then before I knew it, there was like 9,000 people on the email list, all really interested. So I think if you just started and you created a website, first of all, don't put your brand on a Facebook page. That's a huge fucking mistake. Like, create a website and you just started sharing your experience and like the lessons that you've learned. There's so many people that are interested in so many different things. I think you would be really surprised, like how much value just your experience would give other people who are kind of in like the same realm as you, Are you a good writer?
I'm not a terrible writer.
You're intelligent though. So you would be able to just make something worth it.
Handsome too. I think that's important to mention.
So what do you think is the next step with that? Are you focused more on just the daily work that you have to do at your company, or are you focused more on the digital marketing stuff that you're learning?
So the digital marketing stuff is like that's between the hours of like 10 p.m. and sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's what it needs to be.
And
if you had other shit to do
right now, I mean, like I would never, the Monday through Friday, sometimes even Monday through Saturday, like I would never do the digital marketing stuff while I was doing the stuff for
so it's separate.
It's
saying.
Totally separate.
Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of made like a public figure, Facebook page, right? And it says like I made a web page that I'm working on, Somerville marketing, because Somerville media wasn't available.
No way.
No, it wasn't.
Lame.
Some dude took it out. I was like, he had such a great website though. It's like, I'm not even mad.
You weren't mad?
My last name's on it.
I know that feeling where there's somebody that like you're kind of pissed at, but you see it as like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah, though. It was really great. I might steal his layout actually. But it was fantastic. So big props to
Somerville marketing.
Yeah, which is long. It's a long URL.
It's not that long.
You don't think so?
No, it's not that long. And you want the word marketing in the domain. That's probably better than having the word media in the domain, honestly. Yeah, you'd be surprised.
But I have it right now, but it's the way ClickFunnels works is it's like more of, it's not so much a web page as it is like it's a funnel, right? And right now I'm trying to run a webinar funnel. Right? Okay. So it's like it's important for the agents like to get the information. My biggest problem now, honestly, is I don't have the time in the day, even if I'm working 10 or 12 hours, to handle a lot of the inquiries that are coming through, because Datalot is getting so much clout like with the insurance industry right now. It's just like, our leads are converting at sometimes 10 or 15 or 20% higher than everyone else. So when that happens, agents start to talk, because, a 20% higher conversion rate, if you drag it over the course of a month, you're talking about literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of insurance premium. Like, it's huge. So we're getting a lot of inquiries in, and it's great. And we're handling them. Like the staff we have there, they're not 9-to-5ers. It's like, the job starts and then the job ends like when it's done,
when it's over,
and some of my clients, they know they'll see emails come out at like midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, because like I'm wrapping up their accounts and I'm moving it over to the account managers that will handle them and making sure they're set up. I'm one of the things another thing I learned in the military was not to micromanage, which is huge for me, because I always want to put my hands all over everything. Do their
jobs, right?
I want to be running around, running the platoon, like loading, people's weapons and making sure they drink the water, but you can't do that you know, and you can't do that, not just in the military world, but also in the civilian world. Like I can't do my onboarder's job for him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's intense, but it's really, really cool. And I love just I love helping people out. It's good because you know, there are a lot of people out there in the lead gen space that are just there for a quick buck. And usually like when I go in as, you know, one of the sales guys, and, you know, there's bad experience. And I feel so bad for him too,
Yeah.
you know, and there's so much that I have to overcome just from an initial conversation. But even if it's a referral, you know, first words out of an agent's mouth is usually like, I've done this before, but, you know, and I have to come back with, you know, even if you have done this before and you failed before, like it's okay, because there's a lot of information out there and sometimes it's hard to digest. And there's so many people that are doing this out of their basement, or, you know, buying leads through another company and then like white labeling it and then selling it to you for a premium and things like that. And Datalot doesn't do any of that stuff. You know, we don't need to do any of that stuff. It's just direct to the end user. You know, like we get it, we give it to you. It's exclusive. We're not reselling it. And the numbers are there, you know, and
it's cool to see you. Insurance lead gen is a pretty dry subject, you know, and especially when it comes to digital things. Like people get excited about digital marketing when you're talking about, I don't know, like SaaS products or like VR type stuff, things that are like young and fun and hip, you know. And it's cool to see you have passion for it and for the people that you work for. And I think I would kind of follow up by, it's clear to me that you want to have an impact, even with the people that are under you. Like you like knowing that people got something out of you, at least giving them some of your experience. You know, what do you think that impact, like if you could teach all of your reps one like important thing, what do you think that would be?
Like the people that are working for me or the insurance agents?
You know, I guess a little bit of both. You know, where I was going with that is that a lot of times in those kind of rooms, it's just a numbers game and it's just super technical. And it's, hey, hit your numbers, and there's not a whole lot of emotion in there. You know, you just kind of go in and you do your job, and it's very like robotic. But speaking to you, you come at it from such like an emotional standpoint, like it means something to you. Yeah. You know, so I guess I'm trying to tap into that. Like, what is it that you're getting out of it?
Well, I think it's with anything, man. It's like, you know, why do you come here? Why do you do the Stotzy stuff? You know, like it's not a paycheck, man. There's a reason that, you know, like there's an end game that's always involved in everything. Like everyone gets up and they grind and they do all this stuff. And it's not just for a paycheck. Like it's for a fiance, right? It's for happiness. It's for all that stuff. Like that is the end game. And if, you know, if I could say anything, it's just like, look at the end game. Don't just look at the paycheck, man. Like that's how I get excited about a dry subject, is because I talk and I build a relationship with people. And like, I like to know, like, you know, what's the reason? Why are you doing this? Why are you buying live transfers? You know, and they're like, so I can generate more business. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But why?
But why?
You know, my kid's going to college in 2 years, you know, and he's incredibly smart and he's going to go here and he's going to need some cash. It's like, great. So if I know that, like, if I know why you're doing something, you know, if I have figures of like what it's going to take to get you there, then I can take a look at my media side and say like, hey, this is how much opportunity we need to drive in there so that you can hit your end goal.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know who Simon Sinek is?
I don't.
I'm gonna have to send you this TED Talk that he did. I really, really love what you said. I love that concept because he frames a lot of what he does around like, what's your why? It's not necessarily the work that you do every day. He says like, if you ask why 3 times to something, you usually get it. So why are you buying live transfers? Because I want to grow my business. Why do you want to grow your business? Because I want to have enough money to send my kids to school. Like, why do you want to send your kids to school? Because I want them to have a better life than I did, right? So like, you're buying lead gen transfers because you want your kids to have a better life than you did. So it's not like the linear, I'm buying lead gens, I'm buying transfers because I want to grow my business. Like if you ask why 3 times, that's like the crux behind what you're doing. And
it's really good, actually.
It's really, really good. Like there's so much shit that flies around the internet that I try to, like, most of it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But Simon Sinek, I'll send you the video. Actually, I got to write that one down too. It's fantastic. And it sounds to me like you do the work that you do because the why like really matters.
Yeah. Let's get down to causes and conditions, man. Like why is it like that? You know, and I don't think there's enough people in this world that ask that question. Like why? Right. And I think maybe because there's a couple reasons. I think maybe because it's slightly uncomfortable. And another thing that I found, like in my experience, is that it's easy to talk. Right? It's easy to talk. Yeah. I can talk. My brain is functioning. It's firing off. What's difficult to do is to intently listen, right? Because now your mouth is shut down. You know, your brain might not be working as hard, and you're intently listening to the person without like jumping into a conversation. And that's difficult to do.
Super difficult.
But when you're allowing somebody the opportunity to talk and you're intently listening, like you're making them the most important person in the world, and everyone wants to feel important
at that one moment.
That's it, including the both of us.
I totally hear you.
And that's something that I'm working on, because I am very much a talker and a talker over. But one of the things I told myself in 2018, I guess this is kind of like my New Year's resolution, is to try to become a good listener, and not only to other people, but like to myself and to my body, and like internally. And trust me, it's been it's been tough, but I'm aware of the issue now, and I think that awareness is key to starting to make a change in any aspect in your life.
I think so too. This podcast, more than anything for me, has been an exercise of listening.
I bet.
And like I really, really fucking mean that. I mean, you can relate. My job, basically, from all the marketing stuff, like at the end of the day, my job is to talk to people. Whether it's like through the internet or on the phone, mostly on the phone, but even meeting people with conversations. And I think maybe I like to hear myself talk a little bit more than other people like to hear me talk, which I'm sure is pretty common.
Yeah, right? Me too.
But man, I tell you, like just becoming curious about people and just listening, like not just hearing them, but like actually figuring out what the fuck it is that they're trying to say. Like you said, like intentively listening to somebody. This podcast has taught me that more than anything else. So I guess, I mean, where do we go from here? What's next? You just bought a house, right?
No, I'm in the process of buying a house. Yeah. Let me tell you, it's up to
I'm in the process too.
Oh, Jesus, damn it. Are you having as much of a difficult time as I am with this?
No, it's actually been pretty easy so far. But I mean, I'm buying a house in Nashville.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, it's all been pretty easy so far, but it's not done yet.
What part of the process are you in?
I'm getting the loan.
Okay, you're getting the loan?
Yeah.
Just wait, my friend. That's nothing.
Okay, great.
The loan is just numbers, right? So you're not really dealing with any people yet. So it's just like, oh, you either have the money or you don't. Like, we'll extend the loan to you or we won't, right? Easy. I thought it was going to be much more difficult. I had to take a bunch of documents. I had to send it over to them. They got it. They're like, yeah, sure. We'll give you $400,000. I'm like, wow, it's intense,
Yeah, that's about what I'm doing too.
And dealing with the people, putting in the offers, and just like, man, people are crazy. They're just like, you make an offer, like someone, they say their house is worth X amount of dollars, right? And you go in, and this is my experience with just the last offer I put in. Beautiful house. I loved it. The girl had a garden out front. She was a cook. She's like, I'm selling my house to get in an RV and go across the country. And I was like, you have no idea who you're about to sell your house to right now. Yeah. Man. Like, I'm on that level with you. I like every day I wake up, like I'm just like, is today gonna be
the day that I just throw it all away?
Like,
go cruise.
I told my boss one time, I'm just like, listen, when I get X amount of dollars in my savings account, you better watch your mouth towards me. But we had great time. I'm looking in the house, and like my inner salesman's turning on. I'm seeing that she's got like no possessions. She's whittled it all down to the point where like she's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking questions, not even about the house, but like, I'm like, where are you going first? Like trying to put this plan like into fruition for her, like I want her to see it. I want her to see herself on the road so that when I make this offer, she's just going to take it. And, everything goes well. And I'm like, I'm putting in an offer. And she's like, something I want to tell you that, the amount that I'm asking for, the house is not going to appraise for that amount. And I'm like, because my dad was owned a company called DCNJ, Development Corporation in New Jersey. He was a real estate appraiser for 35 years, right?
So about evaluating a home.
I mean, like I've gone with him when I was a little kid. I'd hold the tape measure and like run around and like I'd help him. He'd buy me like a Donkey Kong game or something if I did a good job. So like that was I know a little bit about home appraisals, not a ton, but if I have any questions, I know a guy that I can ask. His name's Dad. So she's asking for like $325,000 for the house. And I'm just like, she's like, I think it's worth it. I'm like, I think it's worth more, honestly. But the professional appraisal says that it's only worth $290,000, right? So if the professionals are saying this based upon comparable sales in the neighborhood, like that's how much the house is worth.
Yeah.
She's like, well, what's your offer? And I'm like, I got to say 290 because that's what the house is worth. She's like, well, I need $315,000 for it. And I was just like, why? There it is. There's that question. Why do you think that it's worth that much? And of course I get like a very non-professional answer and an emotionally driven one, which
use your imagination.
Yeah. So whatever. She changed the shades in the house, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Why do you think that, and she's giving me more explanations. And I was like, look, I'm like, the housing market right now is like, has been just grinding upwards for so long. And like, it can't grind upwards forever. Right. So there's a very distinct possibility that I could be buying this home at the top of the market, which means that the only place that it's going to go is down. Right. Like you've done nothing to it. You've held it onto it for 6 years. You're about to make 80 grand on the house.
Yeah.
Not a bad payday.
Yeah.
Right. For doing nothing. And basically we get down to it. And I was like, listen, I got to offer you 290, maybe 295 for it. Because there's no other reason that I would pay that, and the deal fell through.
Lame.
But yeah, it just doesn't make sense because like what you'll find out here is if the bank says 290, right, though, you're required to put down, 3.5 or 5% on the 290, right? So in that case, about 15K, then any difference between the appraisal price and the price that the owner is asking for, you have to come up with in cash. So it would be 15K, plus 10, 25K extra because she's asking for 315, right? That's a huge like cash investment for a property, So I was just like, listen, lady, unless there's a river of oil underneath your house or a Picasso in the attic, like there's no way
of Independence in the picture frame.
And there's no way I'm giving you that much money for the house. So we'll see.
That sucks, man. You'll find your house.
Well, the realtor fucked up or screwed up.
I told you can curse, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the realtor fucked up and gave me her phone number, her personal phone number. So
bad move.
Like a good salesman that I am, I will be checking in. I guess is the phrase that we'll call it.
Oh, okay.
Routinely checking in.
So we'll end on this one. As I was doing my quote unquote research that I told you about, I found a hysterical meme on your Facebook page of some girl walking across the street and some other kid playing the trumpet right in their ear. It's like, this is me calling
this is how I make my living.
Hour.
Yeah. There's another one too. It's just like, this is how I make my living. And it's just like the kid like blaring the trumpet and it's like me, prospect.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm talking about. Like I'll call you on the hour every hour until you just like fold.
Sales humor, guys. Sales humor on Facebook and on Instagram there.
Oh, that's the page, Sales Humor.
Hilarious. And the guy actually created a book too, and it's so funny. It's oh man, I can't recall it. I'm sure it's plastered all over. It's like the sales something, and it's like a humorous anyone that's going into sales or thinking about going into sales, it's great because it gives you like good information, but then it also like puts a lot of humor into it. And it's just, this guy is not like, he's dropping the F-bomb, and he's like a really like funny guy. Like a lot of people that in sales, man, it's a different type of person.
You have to, or else you go crazy.
Yeah, you get told no 100 times a day,
over and over again, and like hung up on, and like screamed at,
and just like outbound, no. But the good news is, and a lot of the insurance agents I work with know this, is that you only need a couple yeses a day, and you're doing a lot better than most of our friends that are working on salary.
Yeah, that's it.
So it says it in the book too. It's like, I would work a salary job, but I like nice things. So
I agree. Well, look, man, I really, really appreciate you coming on here. You're a cool kid, dude. Like, I'm really glad, because we always chat with each other a little bit, but we've never actually got to spend like some time and talk to each other. So I'm really glad we got to do this. Juliana extends her best wishes. She told me to tell you hi. Yes. I think that I remember you sent this, like, I think it was an Instagram video of your squatty potty when you got it or something, because you were so fucking excited about it. And she feels the same way. So
best purchasing decision.
Our team squatty potty.
Oh, I love it, man. It's such a game changer.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you could give me a like.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
See you later.